Some of the strongest teachings about wealth and possessions are from the Gospel of Luke. No, it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter. So I'm sure all those who are here, present here, is not struggling to pass through the needle, but we are all placing, what did Jesus say? Store up treasures for yourselves in heaven, where thief cannot steal, moth cannot destroy, the rust will not eat away. So these are great lessons. I was reading a story about Alexander the Great. I'm sure you are familiar with Alexander the Great. He wanted to conquer the whole world. Whole world? Imagine. This is not a simple thing. So he started from his home, Greece, in Philippi, and came as far as India. And there a small mosquito bit him, and he got a malaria, and he was at the point of death. There is no escape. He knew that he is not going to survive. So he called all these generals, army generals, and everybody called around him and said, I am about to die, and all this what I have done in my life, I cannot take with me. So promise me 3 things that you have to do when I die. So what is the first thing? The first thing is, doctors must carry my body to the burial. And secondly, all the gold and silver and precious stone that I have gathered during my campaigns, it must be placed on the path to the cemetery where I will be laid to rest. And the third, it says, my both hands must be outside the coffin, open. So they were wondering why, what is the significance, and they were feeling bad and to ask. I said, at least give us the message. What is the significance of all this? He said, first, no doctors are able to cure all the diseases, even death. No doctor can cure the death. So the doctors must carry my body to the grave. And secondly, all that we gather, everything that we gather, all the wealth and possessions and riches, he says, we cannot take with us when we die. We have to leave behind. So that's what he said, everything must leave behind. And thirdly, why the hands outside the coffin? He says, I came empty to this world, I go back, I return also empty-handed. So these are very wise lessons for ourselves to think and reflect, what Jesus is teaching us. No, it is not the wisdom of this world, Every day what we hear, wealth and possessions and riches, the message in the world is, this is the thing, wealth, power and possessions and so on. So that is why in the first reading, vanity is all vanity, all in this vanity. Not the vanity bag you have brought to the church. It is not that bag. Vanity means emptiness. What is the meaning and significance of life? Some philosophers have said life has no meaning, but you have to give a meaning to your life. For common, we are not worried about the meaning of life. All of us are chasing after the meaning of life. No. Each of us give meaning to our own existence. So that is what God is asking all of us to reflect and think, that what on earth am I here for? What on earth? And that is why this psalm is very, very beautiful. From, O Lord, you have been our refuge from generations and generations. See what a beautiful psalm is this one. This is the prayer we are making every day. Or today at least we pray this one. You have been our refuge from generation to generation. God is being generous and He is taking care of each one of us. He knows each one of us. No other Psalms. Everything God knows and generations. So this Psalm, if you read, you turn men back to dust and say, go back, sons of men. To you 1,000 years are like yesterday come and gone. You sweep men away like a dream. Like grass, they spring up and they are gone. Make us know the shortness of our life. Make us know the shortness of life. So what is the meaning, significance of this parable? So two brothers were on quarreling and fighting over the property. Today is also a very big challenge in our families are also on property and wealth and possessions and riches. How much I will get, how much money I have and so on. Our status of life. Status of life. Nobody is going to worry about all this. Each one is worried about their own life. Nobody is worried about comparing and who is more, who is better, who is more powerful. But unfortunately, these are things that we hear every day. But the gospel message, Jesus is speaking about goodness, solidarity, generosity. I was reminded about, during the COVID time, everybody was passing through hard times, difficulties. There is shortage of food, we could not go about. People get sick, going to the hospitals. But somehow everyone was helping each other. Families reaching out to help others who have no food, no rice and so on. How inspired, how helpful one another. So that is how that psalm is coming, very meaningful. You have been, generations and generations, God is taking care of us. God come to our help. So today, why we need to worry about food and clothing? Again, the parable says, you are more precious than birds of the air and everything. God takes care of that. You are more precious than all this one. So in this parable, Jesus is telling, says, who made me a judge over you, or who made me to divide your property? He says, why? Be interested, beware of covetousness, greed, greed. We don't want to speak about greed. No. The other day in the newspapers all appearing, Supreme Court judge, the house, stacks of cash and money that is stacked up. For what? Money not used. Money is just hoarding up. Money just hoarding up in the ones. Money is for using circulation, to be circulated. We spend it, we get money, we spend it. We don't keep it in our pocket. We don't hoard it in our life. Money is as money does. Money is for service. So that is what Jesus is making us to understand, to look into ourselves. A man's life is not consist in all these possessions and wealth and so on, but generosity, kindness, goodness of our life. So again, this parable is telling that, how this man is thinking about himself. He says, the land of a rich man brought plentifully. What shall I do? I have nowhere. I do this, I will pull down, I will build new ones, I will store, I will say to my soul, enjoy yourself. I. See? God is, if God was to think like that, how we will all live. So forget about ourselves. Jesus is saying, forget about ourselves, think about ours. All these things we cannot take. All these possessions. So that man also died that very night. Then he says, all these things, whose it will be? You will not enjoy. I also remember the story of the man, the rich man in somewhere in Soyong, who was the first one to have the Maruti car. And when he died, he is also buried in that Maruti car. Now some stories like that, some spaghetti. So it is like that. When we are thinking about only about possessions, we will not think about God. God has no place in the life of persons who are possessing. When we possess things, that thing is possessing us more and more. Jesus is not saying about riches and wealth and so on, but avarice and greed, possessions in life. He wants this, at the end he concludes, so it is one who lays up treasures for oneself, but not generous towards God. All that is God's blessings to us, as He has made us maybe wealthy, maybe self-sufficient, everything. But it is not only for us, but also to be in solidarity, help our neighbors, people who are in need. That generosity, God will bless, God will reward us. May this Sunday's liturgy, the prayer, our prayer become meaningful, that we come to church and participate, share in the blessings of God's goodness, that we also reach out to one another in love and in service.